We are officially starting the first episode of World History. This is 1.1 Human Ancestry. We are going back 10 million years. So I would probably like to start a video off with a bunch of pictures all the time. Most of the time in these history lessons. So for example, we're going to be learning about proto-language. We're going to be learning about the use of fire. We're going to be learning about stone tools. And we're going to be learning about the human um, ancestor, the human lineage, basically. The human evolution, the phylogenetic tree. So, humans are thought to have evolved from the common ancestor between humans and apes. They did not evolve from apes. They did not evolve from apes. They did not evolve from chimpanzees. They didn't evolve from bonobos. They didn't evolve from gorillas. They didn't evolve from any of those. They were ancestors of both of them. And as far back as like 30 million years ago, there was a split between the common ancestor between humans and apes into a human group and an ape group. So the first human-like mammals were not called Homo. Homo is the prefix for humans. So anything that's Homo, it's considered a human. However, you don't have to have the Homo in order to be a human. For example, about 4 million years ago, there's this species called Australopithecus. I think that's right. I hope I didn't butcher it. Australopithecus, and they had slightly bigger brains than chimpanzees, but they still had small brains. They had slightly bigger brains. They still had small brains, and they had teeth. They were herbivores, and they were herbivores, so they had to use their teeth to cut down the tough grass. So that's Australopithecus, right? And then a few million years later, we had Homo habilis. Now, habilis means work, or to do, or to do work, or craftsman, or something along those lines. I don't exactly remember. But Homo habilis actually started to create the tools, like the early stone tools that were made from real stone that you saw in the last slide right here. Most of these were made from Homo habilis and Homo erectus, right? So, oh, not yet. Oh God. Okay, Homo habilis had he wasn't that tall, but he had many he had a bigger brain, and he was able to lead the way for Homo erectus. Homo erectus is the first real species of human that did any technological innovation, and they created fire, which is amazing, and I'll tell you why it's amazing later. We also had early Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, or Homo neanderthalensis, and they are all called the humans are all called hominins, right? Um, and the plural for hominins is hominini. So all of this hominini right here, they're all humans. They didn't exactly evolve from each other, but they evolved to have bigger and bigger brains. And early Homo sapiens are early people of our race, of our no not of our race, of our uh, species, and those evolved into Homo sapiens sapiens, which is wise man, which is what it's called. Homo neanderthalensis, they made clothes, they did pretty good stuff. Homo heidelbergensis, they were kind of they were kind of they were also kind of a great innovator. They created a social interaction, which is great. If we didn't have social interaction today, we would be dead, and we wouldn't be able to do something called collective learning. So that's the timeline that we're working with. We're working over 10 million years, 30 million years. So you got to keep track of that, and it's normally nature that does the work rather than the human himself. So the species of human that we all are today is called Homo sapiens sapiens, and it means wise man, or I just say wise man, right? So this is the human lineage. We've already examined this photo. And prehistoric scientists believe that Homo sapiens sapiens evolved because they were able to control fire, which provides for more nutrient. Actually, Homo erectus was able to control fire, which contains more nutrients whenever you cook it, fueling the human body to have a bigger brain, right? And all other species are extinct right now, as of currently, and historians are not sure why. There's no more Neanderthals, there's no more Erectus, there's no more Homo habilis. It might be possible that it was the 75,000 years ago Toba supervolcano incident, and we'll talk about that next episode in human migration. But even though modern humans have evolved 200,000 years ago, species mutations did not have a significant enough advantage to change the human into the learning and comprehension ability of today until roughly 70,000 years ago. So if you were to bring a baby from today, if you were to bring a baby from 200,000 years ago and educate him right now, he would probably be a special ed kid. Okay, that's no offense. He would probably be a special ed kid. But if you were to take a baby from 50,000 years ago or 70,000 years ago, you educate him now, he actually will be able to reach a level very close to the learning ability that you could acquire today. So that's important because even it's a subspecies because we can't count every mutation for a species. I'm not teaching you biology, but we can't count every mutation as just a totally different species. So we have to take into account what mutations helped humans acquire different ability. So next, I'll tell you all the innovations of human beings prior to the Homo sapiens. Prior to Homo sapiens. So the development of basic tools occurred roughly 3 million years ago. Now, basic tools are really important. Um, they probably first found sharp stones rather than they make them themselves. And humans actually did not rub the stones. They didn't rub the stones together. They most likely just dropped it on the ground. Um, yeah, they most likely just dropped it on the ground or rubbed it to the ground rather than rub it onto each other to create the sharp stone. But they made tools, right? They made stone axes using these stones, even though they were they were not advanced in any way. For example, these edges right here, there's many edges right here. These sharp stone edges are able to cut through very deep sections of the meat. So, for example, you can get bone marrow from cows if you use these basic tools just to dig in a little bit, and then you can get the bone marrow. You can get the eye meat, or you can get the I don't know why you would eat eye meat, or you can get the meat along the mouth. So, or you can get the tail meat. You know, so it's really useful to develop basic tools because then you can get more food in order to fuel your brain, right? So the control of fire got 800,000 to 500,000 years ago. That's about the estimate, but it really could have happened any 2 to 1.5 million years ago. The date doesn't really matter. All you need to know is really the advancement of human beings. So 800,000 to 500,000 years ago, we had food that could be cooked because of humans being able to control fire. And cooked food is more nutritious than raw food. I don't know if you get this, but cooked food is more nutritious than raw food. That's why people cook the food, and that led to an increase in the brain as well, and kind of triggered a chain reaction in the body actually. Um, but it led to brain an increased brain size. There you go. So it gave humans better food and also kept them warm. So the winters aren't that harsh. If they can control fire, they can keep themselves warm and not die. It's normally survival of the fittest, and if you can control fire, you have a great advantage in the natural selection process of nature. So next is the use of proto-language. What's a proto-language? A proto-language is a language that is made before that most languages, many languages, sprout out of. And it's also a language. It's normally a language without a complex structure or no structure at all. So, for example, I could say red car. That's not a sentence, right? That's not a sentence. Or I could say tools stone, right? That's not a sentence. But some languages, they have structure, and they know it's stone tools, right? English is stone tools. I have a stone tool. These people they might have said tools stone have, or it's tools have stone, right? Tools that have stone makes sense. They say tool have stone, which leads a way for another language to adapt to that and says tools that have stone, and then another language will adapt to that, and then another language that will adapt to that and say I have a tool that has stone, or I have a stone tool, right? So proto-languages are the baseline of modern languages, but proto-languages are also they're also really important because they allow humans to interact with each other. They allow for easier communication, which starts something called collective learning. And collective learning is the process of being able to learn more this generation than the previous generation, then it's lost the previous generation. So, for example, if you learn, let's say, 30 items. If you learn 30 items this generation, whereas the previous generation only learns 20 items, then you have learned more items than the previous generation. And the fact of this keeps on going and going until today's generation has learned a myriad of things. Probably 10 million, I don't know. There's no number to quantify it, but some things are big, other things are small. We've learned a myriad of things to be able to communicate with each other in this way. And collective learning is seen through YouTube videos like this. This is a YouTube video illustrating collective learning, and it is a piece of thing that it is a piece of collective learning. So collective learning is a very important tool in humans, and it's what made humans as advanced as they are today. So the early humans were hunters and foragers, or your sixth grade textbook might have called it hunter-gatherers, which is very, very appropriate as well. Early humans were hunters and foragers. Hunting means to kill animals in order to gain food. I forgot to fix this. Killing of animals in order to gain food, and foraging is to gather fruits, nuts, and berries in order to gain food. So here's some pictures. I'm not going to pull up pictures of people hunting food and animal because it's probably quite gory. But some characteristics of hunter-gatherers were they traveled in small groups. Women and men had different jobs in the hunting gathering. Women normally cared for kids, and it's still pretty prevalent today. Women care for kids, and they were the ones that collected fruit because they didn't have men believed that the women didn't have enough strength to hunt, which is very very sexist. But um, that is the civilization of 2 million years ago, and it's still the civilization now in some cases. So they traveled in small groups because a big group would exhaust the region's resources. So if you have 3,000, 10,000 people in one collective with 1 mile by 1 mile area of land, uh, by the end of that, the carrying capacity of the region isn't a lot. By the end of that, probably only 20 are going to survive because it's survival of the fittest. Is everyone wants food for themselves. It's every man for himself. Yeah, all of those words that you hear in Hunger Games and those types of movies, they all apply in this version in this history, in this period of history. So hunter gatherers also seasonally migrate. They migrate every season. Whenever they finish the region's resources, they go to the next region. Whenever they finish that, they go to the next region, right? So they seasonally migrate, and humans were able to predict the pattern of migration. No, predict the pattern of when trees grew and fruits grew in different areas. So then that kind of led to the start of agriculture. But we're going to talk about that in chapter 2. So that's going to be it for today's episode of Humans World History. World History. Yeah, the world history of humans. Not of animals. The world history of humans. And this is more like a pre-history episode rather than a history episode. But if you want more course requests, I am going to start another course soon. But if you want more courses, then please leave it down in the comments below because I want to teach what you guys want, not what I want, even though sometimes I do. Okay, so that's gonna be it, and see you guys next time for 1.2 Human Migration.